basic unit, smallest unit in the brain. It has a lot of work to do because it is the way that the brain and body communicate with each other. Neurons are the way the body and brain communicate with each other. The way they do this is between different devices. So this is a neuron. Your neuron actually has a cell membrane, a nucleus, it has a cell body, and then it has what we call dendrites and axons. The best way to know in regard to dendrites and axons send information, dendrites receive information. Axons send information, dendrites receive information. Axons, this is axons, they send information, dendrites receive information. This is how they start to communicate with each other. So you have 100 billion neurons in your body. One is sending information, they're receiving it, sending it, receiving it, sending it, receiving it. So from your brain all the way down to your toes are wiggling right now. It just kept receiving, sending, receiving, 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 sending until it got down to your toes to move. When it moved, it sent the neuron back up to tell the brain it was completed. Okay? In regards to axon and dendrites, the best way to figure this out, axons are like your arms. Everybody extend your arms out. So you're sending information. Now, if I wanted to give you something to grab, what are you going to grab it with? Your fingers. Those are your dendrites. So axons are your arms, dendrites are your fingers. Okay, you receive information, send information. Receive information, send information. Got it? Yes, no. Remember head and shoulders, knees and toes? Remember that? This is going to be the chapter you're going to feel like you're back in kindergarten. Okay, you guys haven't been in kindergarten a long time, but if I told you to stand up and do head and shoulders, knees and toes, most of y'all could do it without any errors. All right, so you're going to go back to kindergarten for a minute. All right, so in regards to your axon and your dendrites, we have this thin layer over the top of it, and it's called the myelin. Okay, the myelin is actually an insulator. It's a protector coat. So you have these axons and neurons that are firing off, speaking to each other, and you have this myelin that is on top of this, kind of keeping it warm. They're like your gloves. They try to keep everything coated and insulated so that when they're firing all these rapid electrical currents to each other, it's coated. Now, in some people, the myelin starts to disappear. When it starts to disappear, these are those nerve-ending shocks that you get that hurt really bad because there's no coating there to protect you. Okay, people with multiple sclerosis, their myelin is usually almost deteriorated where they have no myelin at all. Okay, a lot of research has actually shown that women have a thicker myelin than men actually have. Right? This thicker myelin actually makes women process information different. How do women process information different than men? Thanks, Stacey. Brilliant. Oh, we got sensitivity now coming in. We're detailed. What do we need? We need the information. What do men need? A little. Are we processing the same information? When we talk about it in an aspect, we often look at our processing is basic, but our influences change it. So you'll kind of see, I'll use my brothers for instance and my sister. I have two brothers and a sister. My boyfriend first told me that he loved me. I called my brothers like, oh my goodness, he just said he loved me. My brother's response was, that's cool. I'm like, did you hear what I said? And he was like, yeah, he said he loved you. Like, wrong person. I should not have called you. I called my sister and I said, he just said he loved me. My sister's like, oh my goodness. Okay, wait a minute. Where were you at? How did he say it? What were you doing? How did he say, like, I love you? Or was he like, I love you? Like, what was he saying? And I'm like, he said, I love you. I don't understand. Was it like, and it was, I'm saying they're both the same conversation, but she needed all of these details to be able to process what really happened. Another example is I've been in an accident before. Called my dad, and I'm like, Dad, they just hit the car. And he was like, Oh, is it messed up? It's it's not bad, Dad. You all right? I'm like, yeah, Dad. He like, all right, then call AAA. I'm like, okay, Dad. He like, you want me to come? um, okay, Dad. I called my mother. She's like, oh my God, Roxy, where were you? Are you fine? What's going on? Wait a minute, I'm on my way. And I'm laughing like, Mom, I just called Daddy. He told me just call AAA. And she's like, you don't understand. I'm like, Mom, you don't even know what a car is. Sometimes, like, what are you talking about? But she processes things different. But we notice that men that are literally circled by a lot of women and raised by women process by what they're being trained. So sometimes you ever have a relationship, it's football season. Football season's coming on right now. And you say, soon as the kickoff happens, babe, can I ask you something? And he like, what? And you like, turn it off, listen. And he like, what are you talking about? Just what do you got to say? And you like, well, I was thinking that tomorrow. And he like, is this just really important? And you like, yeah. Okay, 2 o'clock tomorrow. I need for us to go. And he like, okay. What you say, 2 o'clock? Right, okay. Babe, listen. Watch me. And he like, I heard what you said. Because his focus is, that's not what he needs to hear all that. 2 o'clock, he heard it. You want him to do something at 2 o'clock? Okay. As a woman, we need to process feedback, release. But if I teach you feedback, you're going to need it as well. Does that make sense? There are going to be some women that literally were raised by their dad, basics and get it out. We don't need to talk about all of this. This is how my dad talked to me. He said, pick it up. You knew pick it up. My mother was like, I need y'all to pick this up, move all this stuff over, clean this area right here, and then when we finish, we can discuss it. If I teach my son that, that's how he's going to talk to me. My dad literally just said, pick that up, and walked out the room. Does that make sense? But that myelin is literally, it contributes to your processing ability. Maybe because it takes a little bit longer for the neurons to fire off to process information. Okay? So next time that y'all have a talk, just understand y'all speak differently because the myelin. Neurotransmitters is another thing that we have. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that are produced by the brain. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that are produced by the brain. Now, inside of your book, you have a chart. It's a green chart that gives you a list of 7 neurotransmitters. You want to make sure you know where that chart is located. Who has found that chart and knows the page number? Page 47, it's the neurotransmitters. There's about 7, 8 of them. You want to know all of your neurotransmitters. Your neurotransmitters are actually responsible for, and I don't think we talked about it. Your neurotransmitters are actually responsible for a lot of activity, from memory to sleep to attention to ability to do awake, sleep, eat. Pretty much everything that you do is transmitted by a neurotransmitter. If you've ever heard of anybody who has ADD or ADHD, it's a neurotransmitter effect. Because the neurotransmitter is literally releasing less or more serotonin, we're really going to give them what's called SSRIs. SSRIs are serotonin blockers. It then blocks the production of serotonin. If you take melatonin, you're actually giving yourself a supplement of a neurotransmitter. If you take sleep medication, anytime you take a psychotropic drug, it's messing with your neurotransmitters. Melatonin is usually your natural form. It's just a natural replacement. It is better than you taking a sleep aid like Ambien, because Ambien is literally going to affect all neurotransmitters. It's going to create a sleep it's going to induce sleep, but it's going to create hallucinations. So it's like you're swapping, I can sleep, but I'm going to see blue people before I go to sleep. And sleepwalking is increased as well. Yes, alcohol affects serotonin and dopamine. It's the reason why you get the courage. It literally inhibits the. You do. If you've ever drank, y'all laugh, so that means y'all did. You like, I gotta go do this. Let me take a swig of this. You take a swig and you like, I can do it, because you kind of get this idea that I'm all right, I'm good, I'm great. Now, what we've learned with alcohol, it intensifies your true personality type. So if you've been known as the angry drunk, your true personality type is usually a hostile person. Okay. If you're this bubbly, kiss everybody, I love y'all, the world is beautiful, drunk person, your true personality type is usually that person. But there's a problem with alcohol. If you're currently in a state of depression, no matter what your personality type, alcohol would add that depression. Why? Because it screws all your neurotransmitters up. You'll also get sleepy. So the neurotransmitters, her serotonin, dopamine, her GABA, it's really pouring. Alcohol is just kind of like grab it, grab it, grab it, grab it. Once it starts grabbing, your ability to reason is gone. So when she starts seeing things, it's just kind of like she's good. Then all of a sudden, a little puppy goes across the street that doesn't have a mother, and she's like, "Oh my God, the puppy is lost." Yeah, marijuana users do that too. Um, Usually, any of your natural sedatives that create any or induce any type of sleep are usually your safe. But you always have to remember, if I'm adding something to the body's going to manufacture it a different way. Even if we look at sweetener, equal, sweet and low, the body manufactures totally different than we do natural sugar because it's off-brand. It's something that the body doesn't recognize. So the body filters it the best way it can. It tries to take it and link it almost to like a puzzle. What does this fit best with? So with melatonin, it fits best with your serotonin because it's kind of like we create melatonin anyway. When you start to create other additives, that's what we always tell you. When you go to the health store, read the additive parts because the additive parts is where the body needs to filter all these other things into something. When it just says pure this, that literally means, okay, we can handle this. We know what this is. But when we start adding other stuff and other letters and polydiretire and all them other weird things, you kind of want to stay away from them. Always read. CVS is required by law to give you that packet that tells you everything about your drugs you take. Read it because the first thing it will tell you is mental disturbances, memory disturbances. The minute you read those things, it's messing with a neurotransmitter. Okay? Yes. We'll talk about sleepwalking in a few chapters. It's actually a sleep disorder. Um, a lot of people will go through the sleep disorder. You do some of the most complex acts during sleepwalking. It's because the brain is processing that you are moving and awake. It is then moving the body according to what the brain says is being done. So you can clean a house, drive. I had a client who drove to McDonald's. Um, hmm I had one that she cleaned the house. She get every morning. She'll get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and clean the house. Her husband would never say anything. Uh, they were having before the sleepwalking occurred. They were having marital problems, which brought them to therapy because the husband felt that the wife felt that the husband was not actively engaged in the household duties. That she felt like she was doing everything. All the weight was on her. Well, all of a sudden, halfway through the therapy session, she started sleepwalking. So her idea, because she thinks she's asleep, is that he finally has understood that he should clean up. Um, so all of a sudden, therapy started getting really good. And I'm like, either I'm really good or something is wrong. So I'm sitting there and she says, "I'm so happy." And I'm like, "Okay, why are you happy?" And she says, "He finally is participating." I'm like, "Participating in what?" And she says, "He's cleaning up. He cleans up just like I like it. When I wake up, it smells good. He does it while I'm asleep, so I don't have to be around." Yes. Usually children would do it when the stress level is intense in a child, you would see more sleepwalking. So with the couple, I mean, his face is looking like, oh, while she's talking, and I'm like, something's not right by his response. So I separate him, and he says, "Shri, she's sleepwalking." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said she gets up about 2 o'clock, she cleans the entire house, she disinfects, she gets back up in the bed. When she wakes up, she thinks I did it. And I said, "Well, why don't we tell her, that she's sleepwalking?" He said, "We ain't telling her nothing. my, my house is good." And I thought, oh my God, this is such deception. But with sleepwalking, the neurotransmitters, they're fine. It's just your activity in the brain. Neurotransmitters, some of you, your neurotransmitters are all over the place. If you cannot stay asleep, that's your neurotransmitter. Okay, if you've got what we call early awakening insomnia, you keep waking up early even though you want to sleep late. It is your neurotransmitter. Okay, stress creates problems with your neurotransmitter. Right around final time, your neurotransmitters are going to be all off whack. Okay, so just expect it. It's okay. Memory is another one. If you got a problem with memorizing things, it's your neurotransmitters that's off. Medication can do it, but I prefer not. Usually you can stimulate certain things. Remember back in the kindergarten when you played that memory game where you had those block things, you had to flip the things over and it came with the cards? That actually stimulates the production of neurotransmitters. So I often tell people, if you have a problem with memory, take an index card first thing in the morning, write 4 things down. Tell yourself, remember these 4 things. Put the index card away. Just before you go to bed, remember the 4 things. Take an index card to validate that you remember this. That's the problem. If you can't, now we got a real problem. Yeah, you need to take the index card with you. But literally, it stimulates the production of neurotransmitters. You're trying to get neurotransmitter to go, 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 go. Okay, so some of y'all check the neurotransmitter list so you can know where you're struggling. If nothing else, this class makes you start to look at yourself a little differently. Okay. Sometimes. There's quite a few apps. I'm starting this one app that does some type of brain teaser or something. Who's returning back to school after taking a long break? Okay. You will notice it's really difficult to jump back into the whole idea of remembering things. And you'll kind of look at people next to you who just keep going, and they're grabbing it. Their brain has already been trained how to keep picking up information. Oftentimes when people get into, just to say, factory working becomes a routine. You don't have to process as much because you just process the routine. Now we're going to stick you back into an environment where now we need you to actively engage in processing. The brain literally goes, wait a minute, we don't do these things. We do autopilot. We drive home and don't realize how we got there. We sometimes go like, did I pass? Oh my goodness, because the brain does things automatically at a point. Brushing your teeth. Some of you knew you brushed your teeth. Some of you can't remember if you brushed your teeth. You know you had to because you don't have a taste in your mouth, but you can't quite remember when you actually did it because you just go on autopilot. That's what the brain does. Unfortunately, the brain is trainable. Your sleep pattern is trainable. Some of you only need, as an adult, 6 hours of sleep. Okay? Yeah. Adolescents need 12 hours. You guys are on a 6-hour sleep cycle. Anything over 6, you just overindulging. All right? And some of you have tried this. Try on a Saturday, no school, no class, no nothing, and you try to sleep in, and you look at the clock and it says 6 a.m., and you're like, I can't freaking believe it. And you try to sleep a little bit longer, and you sleep 4 more hours, and then you wake up exhausted because your body was done 4 hours ago because you only need 6. When you create this physical activity, you increase neurotransmitters. Exercising actually increases the neurotransmitter to make you sleep better. That's why they talk about working out. Working out in the morning intensifies you all the way through the day so that your sleep can be better. That's because you release the neurotransmitter, go, 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 go. You have endorphins in your system now. Technically, when you exercise, you're on a high. You're on a morphine high. You're on your own body's morphine high. So you are high. So if you're high and you try to lay down, the body's like, wait, we got stuff we can do. Think about it, and it's got those thoughts where you're like, choom, 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 because it's still running. It's high. It's technically only twilight sleep. What happens in twilight sleep when you, and we're going to talk about sleep, I think, in 3 more chapters, you become paralyzed in your sleep. You become paralyzed in your sleep for the purpose of reproducing cells. So when you go to sleep, your neurons reproduce. They repair anything that's internally that they need to work on. They work on them while you're asleep. But they must keep you paralyzed, because if you start activity, then you can't create all it does. So your blood pressure drops, you are paralyzed completely, and your body goes in repair mode. Once it finishes, it lets you out. So you get sleep paralysis that kind of makes you feel like you're stuck. You gotta wait. That's twilight sleep. Yeah, you kind of like stuck in between. It's normal. Just don't let it happen too often. If it's a nightly thing, seek help. Things you need to know on this one is your SSRIs. We talked about them. Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil. All those are serotonin blockers. Okay. People talk about taking nerve pills. They're literally taking SSRIs. They're taking blockers. Be careful with some of your cough medications, as winter is coming. Some of you are going to be taking codeine and all these other things. These are neurotransmitter changers. Okay. If you are on Prozac, Zoloft, or Paxil, never stop abruptly. You must wean yourself off. All right. Don't worry about the Gilead cells. We now, when you abruptly stop taking a psychotropic drug, your neurotransmitters go haywire. When they go haywire, it causes confusion. It causes disoriented detachment from reality. It causes hallucinations. It can cause delusions. Um, it causes sleep disturbances. Your neurotransmitters are just. Usually a doctor will wean you off one as they insert another. So they like take you from 50 milligrams to 25 as they give you 10 of this. You're on 20, 10 of these. They're going to try to switch it off. Prozac and Paxil are kind of in that same philosophy that we just switch you off and you're okay. I'm not a big psychotropic drug person, but I know sometimes it's needed. But I'm not. Most people do. It makes them go like this. If you want these people who your emotions are like this, is your neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters make you go like that. That's all. That's what drugs do. They mellow you out. If you ever had a drug before. If you're ADD or ADHD, if you're ADD or ADHD and you take coffee, your serotonin levels drop. So you become this way. If you're not ADD or ADHD and you take coffee, your serotonin increase, so you become go, 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 go. So if you're a person that drinks Mountain Dew and you're like, let's go, let's go, you're not ADD or ADHD because your serotonin just shot up. If you are ADD and ADHD and you take Mountain Dew and you feel like you want to go to sleep, it's because your serotonins are then dropped because your body transfuses the chemical inside of it differently. Caffeine switches to you as a depressant when it switches to somebody else as a stimulant. So if you're a person who drinks Mountain Dew, coffee, Red Bull, Monsters, and you kind of like, them stuff make me sleepy, go get checked. One is going to be psychological, so you have to figure out which part is psychological, which part is actual. You got to go find out. ADD and ADHD is not always, people always think of it as, I gotta move, I gotta move, I gotta move. That's not what it always is. It's the whole theory of it, it's attention deficit. So it literally means my attention will go to 5 different things depending on what stimulates me. So if I'm having a conversation with Bobby and I'm like, Bobby, blah, 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 and then Stacy moves, but Stacy, did you know? And Bobby like, we just was talking. And I'm like, Stacy just stimulated me. I gotta go here because I can't stay with Bobby because he's not doing anything to keep my focus. So if you ever see the kids in school that really truly suffer, because ADD now has become this bandwagon diagnosis, but a child that really suffers from it, they're kind of like, move, move, move. And if you're not, okay, me and Bobby sitting here, teacher's talking, this is boring the heck out of me. So, what can I do? I bet you if I throw this at Bobby, he gonna move. Bet you I can get him to be mad at me. That'll keep me occupied for at least 10 minutes. So I'm gonna do stuff to get Bobby to go. And he gonna be like, stop! And I'm gonna be like, whoa, this is fun. Okay? Take a kid, watch a kid who has ADD play a video game. They're like this. Because it's like so much stimulation they can keep a concentration. Take them to an IMAX movie, they're like, take them to a story, they're like this. They're gonna be out the seat, under the seat. Mommy, did you see that popcorn on the floor? Mommy, you did pick that popcorn up? Mommy, you like, oh my God, I'll never do this again. But give them something to store something, they're like, it's just the way the brain thinks. What happens as an adult, you learn how to function and not let other people know you have it. So you learn how to create tricks. I got one student, he had it really bad, and I would wear really bright bracelets that had like sparkles on it. And when I would teach, he would be like this. And I would always think his name was Dylan. He always allows me to use his name. And he would be, at first he'd be looking at me, and then all of a sudden, because I talk with my hands, and he'd be like, and I'd be like, Dylan, am I losing you? He'd be like, your bracelet is though. So I thought I'd take my bracelet off and be like, okay, Dylan, stay with me. But what Dylan would do in class is Dylan would just do this. And it was his technique so that he could stay focused with me, that he had to learn a technique to stay focused. So as adults, you just learn techniques to compensate. That's all.
So one of the, like I've noticed that some people say that just about every child has ADHD and
No. I'm going to just use my personal thing. When the belt left the household, problems occurred. When the discipline changed, how many of you are over the age of 25? Over 25. Okay. Remember when you were a kid and you told your mother called you and you was like, what? What was the response of her? Okay, you probably, and matter of fact, you might not even thought what. You might have, yes, ma, ma, come in, ma. The new millennium came, and when Billy slapped mommy in the grocery store, and mommy says, we don't slap mommy, Billy. Billy gonna slap mama again. And Billy gonna be excited about slapping mama a couple times because Billy knows there's no consequences. When we started giving awards for participation, not because you just won, we changed the mindset. So now everybody on the team gets an award. That's a problem because everybody didn't win. And unfortunately in life, you're gonna win some stuff and you're gonna lose some stuff too. It hurts to lose, and you gotta learn losing is a part of life. It's just what happens. You don't get every job you apply for. You just don't. And they don't call you and say, we didn't offer you the job, but you can come in and work until you find a job. They don't do that. So the idea is that when that happened, a lot of kids started having accountability and entitlement. Once that kicks in, activity kicks in. So if you don't pay attention to me, I'm gonna get my attention. And I'll get it any way I gotta get it. So that's usually what happens in the classroom. Yeah, in the classroom, I'm the child at home. All the attention is on me. Now you put me in a classroom with 20 people. And you want me not to be the main attention? No. I'll show you. I'll destroy this room. You will pay attention to me. Nervous system. All right, your nervous system is really huge, and you guys need to know the different parts. We start off with what's called the central nervous system. It's the main part. It contains your brain and your spinal cord. The Central nervous system, what we call the CNS. On your test and on your exam, you're going to see CNS. CNS stands for central nervous system. It is your brain and your spinal cord. Your brain, is there any time you don't use your brain? I mean, not your mind, but your brain. No, your brain is always being used. Now, the brain cannot communicate with the body by itself. Does that make sense? The brain can just not speak to your hand. The brain actually uses the spinal cord to communicate. Okay, so the brain sends the message down the spinal cord for all communication. We actually call the spinal cord the highway. The spinal cord is the highway. The brain uses the highway to communicate with the body. Okay. Now, after the brain communicates with the spinal cord, you know, like when you see a spine, you kind of start to see those parts come out of the spine. That's really the peripheral nervous system. That's where the central nervous system sends information to the peripheral nervous system, the PNS. The CNS sends information to the PNS, the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is then divided into two parts. The somatic nervous system and an autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system is voluntary movement. Your somatic nervous system is voluntary movement. It's also sensory movement or sensory stimulation. So, somatic nervous system are things you do voluntarily. The peripheral nervous system extends itself from the central nervous system. The autonomic nervous system are the automatic parts in your body. It's the parts that the nervous system run automatically. Blood pressure, heart rate, breathing, digestion, metabolism. All of those are your ANS, or your autonomic nervous system. Okay, so you got your PNS, your SNS, your ANS. Are you still following me? Because I'm going to tell you how this exam is going to go. It's going to be a scenario, and you got to figure out which nervous system is responsible. Are you still following me? Some of y'all just sitting with a look. I need sign language done today. So all who got me, yes. All who don't have me, no. Okay, no. All right. So the autonomic nervous system is then divided into two parts: parasympathetic and sympathetic. Your parasympathetic is literally the slow down part. It's the nervous system that slows things down. Your sympathetic nervous system speeds things up. So if you're about to get in a car accident, what occurs? Presley, go again. Okay, what happens? You're sitting at the truck is coming towards you. What occurs to you physically? Heart starts to race. What else? Tense up. What else? Breathing starts to happen. Are these voluntary or involuntary? They're involuntary. That's part of that autonomic nervous system. So all of a sudden you get the sympathetic nervous system is literally speeding things up. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. When this car actually stops or the truck stops and does not hit you, the parasympathetic then kicks in and says, calm it down. We're okay. You can relax. It's okay. How many of you ever gave a speech in public? Were you nervous? What happened? Shake. Flush. Sweat. Thanks, Princess, for passing out. Were these voluntary? No, they were all part of that autonomic nervous system. Nervous, scared, stressed, sympathetic nervous system. When you finished the speech and you got that whew, feeling, that was the parasympathetic that just kicked in. The idea is that if you kick in the somatic nervous system, the voluntary part, you can override the ANS. No. Um, the problem with the ANS, it's automatic. How many of you ever got angry and you kept saying, I'm not about to be angry about this. I'm not going to be angry about this. I am not going to be angry about this. And you just feel the anger coming and coming. You don't control the emotion. So anxiety, you don't control what you do with it. So the idea is that if I can keep myself from shaking, that's all you're about to do. You're going to stop yourself from shaking. Inside, you still gonna feel what they call butterflies, which technically nobody has ever swallowed a butterfly to tell me if it really feels like that. But that feeling like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, all you're doing is stopping the shaking. And you're still gonna feel like,
So that'd be why, you know, they're like,
so the parasympathetic nervous system says we're all clear. Until it kicks in, it's the fight or flight. Everybody's probably heard of that. That's that sympathetic and parasympathetic. Until the parasympathetic says we are all clear, you can calm down, it will not release the neurotransmitter. That's why for instance is passing out. Because her parasympathetic nervous system is like, I don't feel released yet, I don't feel released yet, pass out. And she's like, we relax now. That's when she gonna be all right. Some of you in a conversation, when you ever had to tell somebody something that you're just like, I hope this goes good. I really hope this is gonna go good. Parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system kicks in. You could tell when people come to my office and they stand there and they be like, I know the sympathetic nervous system is just riving up. And I literally have to be like, it's okay, what's going on? And you can see people like, whew, the parasympathetic just kicked in and let me be relaxed. It triggers by words, it triggers by smell, it triggers by people. So your parasympathetic nervous system, if you have somebody that kind of calms you down, they actually trigger your parasympathetic nervous system's neurotransmitter release. Now lavender actually does neurotransmitter. If you actually rub your dog for 10 minutes, he will actually release the parasympathetic nervous system, release neurotransmitter. So if you ever feel stressed, take your dog, your cat, rub it for 10 minutes. It will actually decrease your heart rate. It just worked. It's really proven. He has to extend your life too. Yeah. If you're calm after the hit and it's just like, oh well, this didn't happen, parasympathetic is hit in. Some of you sympathetic just starts revving up even more. Oh my God, I can't believe they hit me. Oh my goodness, my insurance. You go into this whole overflow. So if you got that moment of calm, sometimes the parasympathetic nervous system will kick in and say you can't handle much more. Perfect example would be, you ever had a moment where you feel like everything is just numb for a moment? It's literally the parasympathetic nervous system saying, this is too much for you. I need to do what I need to do to calm everything for a moment. If not, you're going to hurt yourself. People do it with stress levels, where you just kind of like anything somebody says, you're just like, I don't hear you. I don't feel nothing right now. That's the parasympathetic nervous system saying, I have to kick in because we're at our levels to where we're going to hurt. Hours, yeah. That's the sympathetic nervous system because you're trying to process what just happened. One thing about the brain wants to understand. If you ever had a breakup and people are always like, I just don't know what happened. And people are like, just let it go. And the brain is like, no, we just can't let something go. We need to figure out what happened. We can't function until we really know what happened. So with a crack, you kind of like, what happened? What did you do? Like, did you see me? And it's like the brain needs to function to understand so I can put stuff in the closure so the parents can put their nervous system to say, I don't have to beat this person down when I get out of the car. Make sense? All right, so this kind of takes you all the way through the different types. All right, let's get to the brain in regards to the structure. So you just saw Hannibal, and Hannibal showed you this. All right, all of you, I hope, is sitting here with this. The brain. Okay. I love that question. Everybody, I hope, is sitting here. Now, how much people are actually using is different. If you've ever seen, I think the movie that just came out, I just went and saw it last week. What's the name of that movie? Lucy. Um, Lucy's idea is that you only use 10%. We're still battling if you only use 10% of your brain. Okay, simply because your brain, there's other parts that use different things in your brain. So when you walk, there's another section that does walking. When you hear, there's another section that does hearing. But when you process, is another section that does your processing. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're still battling if 10% is actually what is used. That's what the other side is saying. How do you know if we only doing 10%? Yeah, because the problem is when you walk, a part of your brain is really saying she needs to move. You don't know what part is telling you that. It's just a part is telling you to use. In regards to what our processing, we might only use 10% because that's frontal lobe activity. It's something we have to effortlessly do. But all this other stuff, they got jobs to do. And when I show you the, matter of fact, we're gonna come back to the slide. I hope it's gonna come. Okay. All right, this is the strip. This is a strip of the brain. So we're literally saying swallowing, tongue, jaw, lips, face, eyebrow, thumb, fingers, wrist, elbow, arm, neck, trunk, hip, knee, leg, foot, toes. All of that's just right here. So if all of this, just this section of the brain is handling that part, you cannot say you're only using 10% because this right here, the frontal lobe, we probably do only use 10%. This is where we actually do processing. This is where we do memory. This is where we put our effort in. All of this, there's areas that we don't have to process. It's just done automatically. Does that make sense? So literally this side, this is why if they open up your skull like this, they can actually touch you different things and you'll feel sensations in all of these areas just by them touching the area in your brain. If you get a brain injury, this is why it can affect everything that you do. If you ever have a tumor or growth on it or hydrochloride where we have a water pressure on it, you will stop from doing stuff. How many of you ever had took a roller coaster ride? When you got off of it, what did you feel like? I mean, I love it, but what happened when you first hit that boom to your head? You ever get off and you kind of like, woo, that was so much fun, woo. Right now, your brain is trying to figure out, we didn't got a little damage. If you read the sign, my mother always tell me every time I got on, like, you stupid, you just gonna destroy your brain. And I'd be like, it's fun. She's like, so you're gonna sacrifice your brain for some fun? Shut up. But never say that out loud. But that was what I was thinking. But on the sign, it literally says, be cautious, brain, heart, stuff. It literally, if you read the warning sign, it tells you we're going to destroy your brain in this process, although you are going to have fun.
So it's just as well that I don't like the work.
No, the experiment is you got to do it once in your life. I mean, nobody does. Like, we're not all standing in line, that 3-hour wait, talking about, well, those are going to be destroyed in here. If you got heart problems, don't ride. We don't listen to that. All right, the brain. You got two hemispheres, and we're going to stop with your hemispheres. You have right hemisphere and left hemisphere. It literally means you have two sections. I can split your brain in half. Your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere are connected by what is called the corpus callosum. Your corpus callosum allows the right hemisphere to speak to the left hemisphere. If I cut the corpus callosum, they will not communicate. Right hemisphere talks to left hemisphere using the corpus callosum. That's the little indentation that you see in the brain, that little valley. That's the corpus callosum. Right hemisphere, left hemisphere. This right here, your area in the middle, is your corpus callosum where communication occurs. Okay? On Thursday, we're going to discuss what else happens with the brain, go into the brain in detail in regards to its parts, and you will be ready for your quiz for chapter 2. See you on, we will not cover 3 until next Tuesday, so you're good for just Thursday, just chapter 2. Now, on Thursday, please bring your critical thinking paper, not your